Well, that's the playing part of it, at least for now. All right, I went straight into the playing before talking or anything here. But what we got here is three D18's. Two of them are authentics, and one of them is an actual 1940. So the first guitar was, in all cases, was a new guitar for the shop. This is a D18 1939 authentic, and you can look up the specs on this, but real quick, it's a 1/11/16 neck. It has a rear X brace, so the brace X is about right here, inch and a half back, whatever it is. X brace crossing is right here, skinny neck, etc. Okay, D18's mahogany. That's pretty. I just got this guitar in, and I decided that I really needed a 1939 authentic because there's just so many cases when I need that rear X on a mahogany guitar, and it's also a terrific companion to this D28 1941 authentic back here, which has been on many, many videos. And before too long, I'm going to A/B this one and that one together so that you can hear the mahogany versus the rosewood sound. These two guitars are great companions. All right, so playing this guitar, what I noticed every single time I picked it up is strong. Golly, it's got a strong mid-range. It's really balanced. It's a super, super balanced guitar, and that mid-range is really powerful. Compared to the 1940 down here, this one has the new guitar sound. This is a VTS top, by the way. So it's baked, it's aged, you know. I don't know if the VTS is all that big of a deal, because when I pick up the 28 back there, it's non-VTS, and it still sounds great. But the VTS probably does add a little bit of that extra clarity or crispness. Some people don't like it because they think it's thin sounding. I can understand that. I have had three of these 39As. I had one that was a 14 that was a non-VTS top, and I liked it a lot. I just could not get along with the neck, so I sold it. Then a customer of mine, a very generous benefactor, loaned me a 39 aged authentic, and I had it for twice for months at a time, and I really got to play that guitar. It was just a superb sounding guitar. Everyone loved that guitar. But again, the neck, I just couldn't quite get along with it. It had a little bit more C-shape than I was used to. It was better than my previous one, as far as my hand goes. All right, then I decided, I need one of these for a model. This one came up for sale. They don't make them anymore. So I thought I should grab one. So I grabbed this one. It comes in, and it's a 15 VTS top, and amazingly, the neck is a little bit more V-shaped on this one than all the other ones I've had. I picked this one up, and it was like immediately comfortable, which is what you want in a guitar. You don't want to have to adapt to it, too much. You want it to go. There's so many guitars out there now that you shouldn't have to work at it, And I picked this one up, and the neck was just, bam, immediately comfortable. It's still got a little bit of a C. It's not a sharp V, but it's good. But every time I pick this one up in the rotation, look, this is a strong guitar. I like this one a lot. I think it's pretty impressive. Now, the 40, this is an actual 1940 D18. It's getting picked up tomorrow, so I thought I needed to record something on it. I did just a few things to this guitar. It's owned by a very good friend of mine, and it's in another video, but in the other video, I complained about the nut because it had equal center-to-center spacing, and I really prefer equal distance. And that nut was shimmed a little bit, which is not a big deal, but So I went ahead and made a new nut for it with equal distance spacing, which is what all these authentics have. And gosh, it was just so much more comfortable for me. I'm really picky about that nut spacing. So every time I picked this guitar up, I thought, this is a vintage Martin. It's drier. It's not as sparkly as, to me, playing it. It's not as sparkly as the 39A. It's drier, woodier. a little bit more bass, and the bass is because it's old. The top is weaker. Everything is being pounded on. Everything's weakened up a little bit, and it's got a little bit more bass to it. But this is the best of the bunch. I mean, there's no question to me sitting there playing it that this one's really good. The neck is very slim. I've measured all the necks and I've done all that kind of thing. And the neck on this is a little bit slimmer than the 39A, which I prefer the 39A because I like a little bit bigger neck. If it was a 23-32, I would be so happy. That's the perfect neck. But this is a slim neck. But it's not, it's not anything you can't get used to. And it has a wonderful taper on the back. It's got a really nice soft V that's just a smidgen more V than that 39. But that 39A comes very, very close to this guitar. When I was going back and forth between them, it was like, these are really similar, except I can feel the little bit of extra slimness to this one. Sound-wise, again, it's just a tremendously good guitar. This is a 1940 Martin D18. This is what they sound like. And great guitar, I had no complaints about this one whatsoever. Now, the 37A, the third guitar that I always in the series, I put the real 40 in the middle so that you could compare it to this one and you could compare it to this one. All right, this is the 37A, D18 1937 authentic. This is a 22 model. This is the one that I shaved the neck down on to make it more like what I think it should be based upon all the measurements I have. I have a whole database of necks. And when this one came in, it was just an anomaly. It was the second fattest Martin neck I have ever measured up the neck, but thin down here, and it just was weird. I couldn't play it. As I move up the neck, it just made my hand go like this constantly, and I couldn't do it. So I shaved it down. I got a whole series of videos on that. Now I pick it up, and it's like, this is comfortable, but it's very fat still. I mean, it's not a skinny neck by any means whatsoever. 1 3/4 inch neck. It's got the forward X bracing, so the X brace is just right there. I mean, it's at the end of the rosette right there, 1/2 inch maybe. I know the measurement and I can't think of it right now. It's early in the morning and my coffee hasn't really hit. But the X brace is right there as opposed to being back here. Forward X brace is going to give you a bigger, woofier, fuller sort of sound. I'm not a big fan necessarily of forward X bracing. Going back and forth between all of these guitars, I really preferred both of these skinny neck D18s, the 39A and the 19X40. I want that mid-range pop for lead playing. However, this is a good sound. It's a big sound. A lot of people are going to like the bigger, warmer, fuller sound for accompanying a vocalist or something, but my experience is that in an ensemble, that focused mid-range is going to cut better. And I know that from experience in jamming and playing in bands and that kind of thing. This is a great guitar. Every time I pick it up, I do appreciate the bigger neck. This neck is a little bit too big. And again, if these were all 23/32 of an inch, I would be so happy. Because 23/32 for me is like the perfect neck. It's not skinny, not big. This neck is very playable. It's very adaptable. I liked it a lot on the cross-picking thing, When you do that kind of thing, that wide range of sound is really very pleasing. Surprisingly, when I hit the swing chords, my hands are really dry. I was surprised how harsh that sounded coming off of the two skinny neck D18s. They were a lot more swing chordy to me. And this one is like harsh, compared to this one. That one just sounds so much better, Punchier. I guess it's punchier. Of course, when you go to swing, you're looking at more a different sort of sound. You're looking for, almost a Django guitar sound. Hammond just didn't cut it. Not as much, you know. But I like it a lot, you know, for the cross picking. It's got a great rhythm sound. Big fat rhythm sound, you know. So this is a fun guitar. I will say this about this particular 37A. I've played a bunch of these, you know, 12, 15, something like that. I've worked on a bunch of them. This is the first one I've owned, yeah. This one has a bear claw top. It's got some bear claw in the top here. And my experience with bear claw is it makes for a stiffer top. And I can tell you by pushing on this top, pushing on it like this, it's stiff. Consequently, I think this is a brighter 37A, and I think in about 50 years, this guitar is going to be tremendously good. It's going to really keep its punch and mid-range instead of getting mushy. But I will say that this is probably the least bassy, woofy, deep-toned 37A I think I've ever played, which is good for me because I like, you know, like I said, I like that mid-range punch. And so this is a really nice lead guitar of the 37As that I have played. And now that the neck's been shaved, and it feels really good right here. So this is a good guitar, but it's a little bit on it's quite a bit on the bright spectrum of the 37As. No question, in my experience. So, all right, so what we were looking at here is just simply like, how good did the authentic sound compared to the real deal? Now, next week is going to be fun. Next week, I've got an actual 1938 D18 coming in, and I have an actual 1942 D18 coming in. If I could, this guitar, this 40 is getting picked up, but if I could keep it for another week, I would have a 37A, an actual 38, a 39A, an actual 40, and then an actual, I would have this 41 D28, which the D28 would be the one, and then I have an actual 42 D18. But in any case, I'm going to have 4 really, really nice D18s here next week. And so it's going to be great. I mean, that's a straight flush on the Martins. 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. That's impressive. That's going to be exciting. That's going to be fun to compare. Really fun. So what we're looking at here is just, well, how good are the authentics compared to the actual pre-war, you know? One thing about the 42 that's coming in, it has an ebony truss rod. And so it would have been really interesting to compare this 40 with a steel truss rod with a 42 with an ebony truss rod. And you would have had the steel versus the ebony comparison. Yeah, but the 42 is going to be good. It'll compare to this 39 down here. And that's why we're doing this now, is because now we have a little bit of a foothold here. How does the 39A compare to an actual 40? And then we're going to take that information and we're going to extrapolate it over next week when I get the 42 in and that kind of thing. So, you know, we're doing pretty good here with fun D18s, which is funny because I'm a D28 guy, really. And these are nice guitars, all of them. So I think I'm going to play just a little bit on each one of them, just play tunes. And you can pick up stuff on them. But my favorite in the batch, no question, the 40. I mean, there's no question, but it's not necessarily, you know, this much of a gap here. That 39A is a hoss of a guitar. I mean, given the price comparison between that 39A and this 40, it's like, yeah, you know, if I had to pay for it, I'd go for the 39A. But if somebody was to just say, here you go, Mr. Kimsey, take one, I would take the 40, yeah, because it is the real deal, you know. It is the real deal. It's got the wear, it's got the repairs, it's got the old wood. That's the real deal, buddy. And it sounds great, plays great. You could live with this guitar, no question. As opposed to some vintage guitars I've had, they were vintage and they were fun, but I couldn't live with them there was just enough things that were like, you know, I don't like this and I don't like that. Well, I would not want to live with that guitar, even though it was really fun to have the actual original. Not naming any names here, because somebody owns those guitars and has them and they're great guitars, you know. But this is a guitar I could definitely live with, you know. The neck's a little thin, but it's pretty close to like a Telecaster, which is good. And now that I've got a new nut on it, the spacing is good, and I could play this guitar. If this was my only guitar, yeah, you could be really happy with this one. So, that would be my favorite. I think after that, I would take the 39A. Even though I would prefer the neck would be a little bit fatter, 23, 30 seconds, this neck is good enough. And it also matches the 41A back here. So having two guitars like that, you're gonna adapt into that mold. And I would like a little bit wider bridge spacing and all that kind of thing. But this would be my second choice because it is pretty comfortable. I can get along with it pretty good. The sound is really, really good. It's a strong guitar. You can whap on it and it holds up. Or you can play soft and it sounds great. This should be my second choice. This should be my first choice if I had to buy them. I think the 39A is just a incredible modern guitar. And I've said that every time I've had one. Every time I've had one, I said, man, these things, everybody wants this forward X guitar here, but these rear X's, to me, are a better guitar. The 37 would be my third choice. It just is not quite as comfortable. It's still a big neck, which, you know, I can get along with, okay. But it still just is not quite as comfortable as the 39A. I don't quite like that weaker mid-range compared to the 2-inch. And I'm really complaining here. I'm nitpicking here. If this was your only guitar, you could be perfectly happy. You know, there's no question. This is a tremendously good guitar. If I was Charles Sawtelle playing with Hot Rise, I would probably take this guitar over the others because of the sort of sound that it has and the style of playing that it would be played in. And so, you know, there's certain situations where this 37 would definitely be your top choice, and I would never argue with you on that. And this is a great guitar, and my neck shaving made it a lot better. It's really comfortable. It's got a shellac French polish on the back, so it's just super slick and super comfortable, non-sticky. I played this guitar in jams outside with this new neck, and just super, super good. Didn't stick, didn't get anything. So tremendously good guitar. This should be my third choice, though. But you know, we're head to head. These are three racehorses crossing the line at the same time. One of them's a nose ahead, and the other one is maybe an ear ahead, you know. Really good guitars. So, all right, I'm going to play a little bit on them. You can cut out of here if you want to. Or you can stay around and listen. We're going to see how well they all react to me. So I'm going to play. I'm not warmed up. My hands are cold. Winter's coming. It's 62 degrees in here right now. Actually, it's 59 degrees sitting over here in the music corner. So it's cold, you know. 59 degrees. Golly. Now I'm really cold. Warm my hands up a little bit here. So I'm going to play some songs that, you know, maybe I haven't practiced a little bit. We're going to see how reactive the guitars are and how well they respond to me and how forgiving they are. How forgiving. So, 39A. Forgot that part. That's it. No fault with the guitar, I just forgot the part. Like I said, I was trying to